Hi guys, tonight we're going to gently drift back in time, over 4,000 years into the golden sands and still winds of ancient Egypt. But don't be fooled by the serenity. This world, so often bathed in the warm glow of desert sunsets and the silent elegance of pyramids, was a land of complexity, cruelty, mystery and majesty. You've seen the images. Pharaohs in gold, gods with animal heads, and the Nile meandering like a lifeline through barren terrain. But what if you, yes, you, woke up one morning in a reed hut on the edge of Memphis? No modern tools, no language skills, no status, just you. This is the story of why you wouldn't last a day in ancient Egypt. Let's begin. You awaken on a woven mat, your body sticky with the sweat of an unrelenting sun. The sound of a rooster, though not quite like the ones you're used to, pierces the air. Around you, the low murmur of life begins to stir. You sit up, rubbing your eyes, and everything is wrong. You're in a small hut. The walls are made of mud brick, the roof covered with bundles of dried papyrus. The air smells like damp earth, old ash, and the faint but ever-present tang of animal dung. You're barefoot. Your clothes are scratchy linen, not at all like your usual pajamas or workwear. A river of confusion runs through your mind. What year is it? Where are you? Is this some elaborate dream? You step outside. The ground is hot, the sun already blazing, though it's barely morning. Your first mistake comes quickly. Your feet, unaccustomed to the jagged texture of hardened Nile dust and the occasional flint, wince with every step. You're no match for the terrain. Even the children racing barefoot past you don't seem to feel it. You look around, trying to find someone who can help, but the moment your eyes meet those of the passers-by, you realize something chilling. Their stares are cautious, almost distrustful. You try to speak, "Excuse me," but your words mean nothing. They speak in ancient Egyptian, a language long lost and incomprehensible to your ears. Your gestures confuse them. You're not just an outsider, you're something other. A man approaches. He's stocky, browned by the sun, dressed in a wrapped kilt, and holding a staff not unlike a shepherd's crook. You try to speak again. He frowns. Suddenly he says something sharply and points to a large basket you don't understand. He repeats himself, then gestures toward a small group of labourers piling clay. He wants you to work. You hesitate. Your hesitation is a mistake. In this time, idleness is not a neutral act, it's a threat. Everyone must contribute, especially those who appear young and strong like you. The man grabs your arm, not cruelly but firmly, and nudges you toward the others. Before you can resist, your hands are filled with straw and wet earth. The others around you demonstrate quickly. Knead the straw into the clay, press it into wooden moulds, set the bricks to dry under the sun. You try. But your hands are soft, unfamiliar with this kind of labour. The mud squishes unpleasantly between your fingers, the sun burns your neck, and your back aches from bending over in a posture you're simply not conditioned for. Your first few bricks crumble in the mould. The workers beside you laugh, not maliciously, but with the weary humour of people used to hardship. One of them offers a demonstration again, slower this time. His smile is kind, but tired. You nod, and try again. Time passes slowly. You look for a watch, but find none. There is only the sun, a ruthless clock. By midday, your muscles are trembling. You've sweated more than you ever have, and your mouth is dry, parched beyond anything you thought possible. You ask for water with a pitiful pantomime, and one of the women hands you a ceramic jug. You drink, only to gag. It's not dirty exactly, but it's far from the filtered or bottled water you're used to. Still, you drink more. You have no choice. The heat pounds like a drumbeat. There is no shade. Not for the likes of you. You're not a priest or a noble. You're not even a merchant. You're at the very bottom, and even that is a courtesy. By late afternoon, your hands are blistered, your shoulders sunburned. You slump near the edge of the worksite, gasping, trying not to vomit. No one comforts you, not because they're cruel, but because there is no luxury of comfort. If you cannot work, you are dead weight, a mouth to feed that brings no grain. A boy passes you carrying a basket of onions and dried fish. You stare longingly. Your stomach turns with hunger. He ignores you. Food isn't free here. Everything is rationed, portioned, measured. You don't have tokens or standing. You're no one. Finally, a woman, not old, but with the face of someone who has weathered many Nile floods, drops a bit of bread by your side. It's coarse, dense, with the faint smell of fermentation. You bite into it. It's dry. chewy, filled with bits of stone from the grinding process. It cuts your gums. You chew anyway. Night comes slowly, like cooling oil. The sun dips behind the date palms, and the air softens. You can see stars above, clear, shimmering, brilliant. The others return to their huts. Laughter echoes. Songs rise, simple, melodic, haunting. You follow the labourers back to their homes, unsure where to go. The man from earlier sees you, sighs and gestures for you to sleep by the wall near his hut. It's not kindness, it's pity, but you nod, grateful. You lie down on the dirt, your body aching. The stars above are eternal, the same stars you know, and yet you feel as if you're on another planet. You wouldn't last a day in ancient Egypt, but somehow you just did. And tomorrow is coming. The sun rises earlier than you expect. A faint pink haze stretches over the distant horizon, and before you've even opened your eyes fully, the rhythmic beat of footsteps begins again. The same footsteps of labourers trudging to their tasks, children gathering sticks, women drawing water from clay-lined wells. You are already behind. Your body protests as you sit up. Your back is sore, your hands are raw. A tight band of pain circles your temples, and your mouth feels like parchment left too long in the sun. You glance around and realise the village has already come to life without you, and you, as before, are no one. You try to rise, but wobble. Hunger lingers like a ghost inside you. You had only a scrap of bread last night and no real meal to sustain you. As you stagger to your feet, you feel the full weight of a day looming ahead, but something has shifted. You know now that staying still will only draw suspicion. You must move, even if your body begs for rest. A few children, barely taller than your waist, race past you. They laugh and shout something that sounds like a chant, their bare feet kicking up soft dust. You envy them for a moment, their resilience, their ease in this place. You feel like an intruder in a painting that keeps shifting around you. A familiar voice calls out. It's the same stocky man from yesterday, waving his hand impatiently. You don't understand his words, but the motion is clear. Come. You obey, your feet dragging as you approach. This time, instead of brick moulding, you're pointed toward a different task. You see a line of men and women carrying baskets along a raised dirt path. The baskets are filled with silt dredged from a nearby canal, a dark, wet mixture that reeks of fish, rot and life. You're handed a worn basket. It feels heavier than it looks. They expect you to carry it. The canal is only a few dozen paces away, but the ground is uneven, hot, and riddled with stones. You hoist the basket onto your back. The moment it settles against your spine, you feel the strain. Each step is a negotiation between your will and your weakening legs. Halfway to the drop site, the basket tips. The muck spills onto your side, coating you in thick black sludge. You freeze, embarrassed. No one helps. You are expected to clean it yourself. So you do. You return to the water's edge, awkwardly washing your clothes while insects swarm around your arms and neck. The water is alive, mosquitoes, beetles, frogs, even something that slithers below the surface. It dawns on you that this is the only water they have. This is what they bathe in. This is what they drink. And they survive. You try to do better the next time. Balance the basket more carefully. Focus your breathing. Ignore the pain. Somehow you complete a full round without disaster. Someone nods at you, and though they don't smile, there is a sliver of acknowledgement in their glance. It's the closest thing to approval you've received here. You hold on to it like a charm. By mid-morning, the sun becomes merciless. There is no shade, and no one speaks of rest. You hear someone humming, an older man with a missing eye, his face lined like crumpled papyrus. He hums as he works, his shoulders steady, his rhythm uninterrupted. You want to ask how he does it, how he withstands this day after day. But you cannot ask, you cannot speak his language. And yet there's something sacred in the quiet way he moves, the way he does not fight the day, but lets it flow through him. Your second mistake comes when you step too close to a cart carrying reeds. You trip, fall hard, and in your panic, knock over a stack of prepared bricks. The sound of crumbling clay fills the air. For a moment, the world stops. A woman rushes over, her face tight with fury. She yells at you, sharp staccato words that slice through the heat. You don't know what she's saying, but it doesn't matter. Her voice carries the weight of lost labour, of precious time wasted. A younger man nearby joins her, pointing to the broken bricks, then to the sun above. Time, you realise. You've wasted time they cannot spare. You try to apologize. She slaps your hand away, not violently, but with finality. They do not hit you. They do not punish you. That would be too much effort. They simply ignore you. From that moment forward, you are invisible. No one looks at you. No one gestures. No one speaks in your direction. You are still expected to work, but you are now a shadow among bodies. You work harder. There's no other choice. By afternoon, you're sent to collect dung from the nearby edge of a cattle enclosure. The stench is unbearable. You gag as you scoop the warm clumps into a shallow basket, the flies swirling around your eyes. A young boy beside you works without flinching. He's no older than 8. His fingers are nimble. He moves quickly, efficiently. You cannot help but stare. He glances at you. His eyes are quiet, steady, too old for his face. Then he turns away. You understand. This is not a world for softness. Evening approaches. The air cools slightly, though it's still thick with the scent of labor. You are allowed to walk away with the others. You pass a temple on the hill, its white limestone catching the light of the setting sun like a mirror to the gods. A procession passes. Priests in animal masks, women wailing, incense curling into the air like silver thread. It's a funeral. You don't know who died, but everyone pauses. Even the children stop. The body, wrapped in linen and carried on a wooden stretcher, is laid at the foot of the temple steps. A priest raises a hand. The people kneel. You follow. It's the first silence of the day, a sacred one. The man from before, the one who had allowed you to sleep by his hut, finds you after the ceremony. He says nothing, just jerks his head toward the same wall as before. You return. This time the ground feels even harder. Your stomach is a hollow ache, but your eyes are heavier. The sky darkens. A cool breeze brushes your face. You're still no one here. You have no name, no voice, but you're learning, slowly, painfully, quietly. When the third dawn cracks over the horizon, it does so with no grandeur. There is no birdsong chorus, no royal fanfare, only the low, rumbling stir of labourers rising with sore limbs and dreamless sleep behind their eyes. You awake with a grunt, your body stiff like poorly fired clay. Your hands are swollen, your shoulders knotted. Sleep did little to mend the bruises of a world that never intended to welcome you. Today, there is no waiting. The man who once tolerated your presence no longer glances your way. He rises before you, disappears into the morning pulse of the village, and leaves you to follow like a stray dog hoping not to be chased off. You do. The streets, if they can be called that, are alive with a scent that's become disturbingly familiar. Sweat, grain, dung, and smoke. A kind of harmony exists in this disarray. Women with tattooed arms pound barley in great stone mortars. Their arms rise and fall in rhythm like the Nile's breath. Children gather dung and dried reeds for the hearths. An old man, seated cross-legged under a faded linen awning, weaves baskets with hands curved by decades of repetition. No one is idle. No one drifts. And then, as if summoned by your thoughts, you see them. The scribes. A procession of them, no more than 6 or 7, clothed in fine white linens without a spot of dirt. They walk along the central path, holding scrolls tied with cords of reed. Unlike the others, they do not carry weight with their backs. They carry it with their minds. You can see it in their posture, in the way the crowd naturally gives way. People bow their heads. Even the woman who slapped your hand before now avoids their gaze. You are mesmerized. For the first time since you arrived, you see something that resembles your old world, a place of writing, of thought, of structured knowledge. And for a brief moment you think, maybe you can approach them. Maybe you can explain yourself, but you don't get the chance. A hand clamps your shoulder and pulls you away. You're shoved into a side path. A voice mutters something sharp in your ear. You don't understand the words, but the meaning is clear. Do not interfere. These men are of the House of Life, the sacred class who preserve the will of gods and kings on papyrus. They are not to be touched by the likes of you. You shrink back, stung not by the shove, but by the reminder. You are nothing here, less than a servant. You are a drifter without kin, role, or purpose. You are not born of the blood that matters. You are not even born of the right tongue. Instead, you are led back to the canal. More silt, more muck. But today's task is different. You're instructed through a complex series of gestures and repetition to coat the walls of a small open structure with the clay mixture. You follow another labourer, a thin man with burns along one arm, and copy his movements. First the hands scoop, then the mixture is slapped, spread, smoothed, and again and again. The rhythm is meditative, despite the flies and the heat. You begin to fall into it, a pattern, a purpose, until you hear the crying. At first it's faint, a child's voice, but not the kind of cry you've heard before. This is not a scrape or a sibling fight. It's sharp, panicked, you freeze. The thin man beside you doesn't react. Neither does anyone else. The sound grows louder. You turn and see a woman running down the dirt lane, clutching a small bundle to her chest. Her face is streaked with tears. Behind her, an older woman limps, her arms outstretched, calling to the gods. You don't know what's happened, but you don't need language to understand. Death has arrived. The child in the woman's arms is limp, a boy, maybe 5 or 6, his head hanging loosely against her collarbone. He is pale, not the sunburnt, dust-kissed brown of the living, but a faint, lifeless grey. The crowd makes room for her as she passes. No one stops her, no one offers comfort. They only step back, bow their heads, and murmur words older than time. You stand still, stunned, but you feel something in the air shift. Fear. It's not just mourning, it's dread. The way people avoid looking too long. The way a man nearby hastily drops his basket and crosses himself with a symbol you don't recognize. You hear a word whispered again and again, Satesh, the god of storms, of chaos, of sickness. You realize then that death here is never just death. It is spiritual. It is divine punishment or the wrath of unseen forces. A child's passing is not simply tragic, it is dangerous. It draws suspicion, rumour, and the trembling breath of superstition. That night, after the boy's body has been taken into the temple, no one sings, no one drums. The air is still. You eat your bread alone near the same wall as before, the silence so thick it presses against your ears. Later, under the stars, you see the mother return, her clothes torn, her face hollow. She does not go into her home. She sits by the wall close to you but not beside you. She does not weep. She only stares at the sky. And in that stillness, a single realization worms its way into your chest. You are not in a world without compassion. But here, compassion has no softness. It is endurance. And you, still fragile, still foreign, are only just beginning to understand what that means. The fourth day begins not with sound, but with silence. It's the kind of silence that presses into the skin, heavy, unmoving. Even the wind seems reluctant to stir the dust, as though mourning still lingers in the bones of the village. When you rise, the ground beneath you feels colder than usual, as if the night's sorrow has soaked into the earth. No one speaks of the boy, not directly, but you see it in the way people move, slower, more deliberate. The women at the grinding stones press harder than usual, their jaws tight. The men carrying bricks walk with less banter, their gazes lowered. Even the children are quiet, their usual squeals muted to whispers. It's as though they fear that too much noise might awaken something that isn't done yet. You are not asked to work in the canal today. Instead, a young girl, no older than 10, pulls at your sleeve and gestures toward the far end of the village where the fields begin. Her feet are dusty, her hair in tight braids with bits of copper tied at the ends. She says something quickly, too fast for you to catch, then points again and walks away, expecting you to follow. You do. The walk is long and the sun creeps higher, promising heat without mercy. Along the way you pass men and women tending long rows of crops. The soil here is different, dark, rich and fragrant. You recognize stalks of emmer wheat, barley, lentils and groves of date palms whose shadows stretch like fingers toward the water. Everything here breathes life, even in a land that feels so heavy with death. But make no mistake, this is no paradise. This is survival. You're led to a section of the field where an older man waits, his back hunched, his skin like aged leather. He holds a sharpened stick with a curved tip, a primitive but effective tool. Without a word, he hands it to you and points to the base of a barley stalk. He crouches low and demonstrates, cutting cleanly, swiftly, then placing the stalk into a wide wicker basket. You copy him, clumsily. Your first few cuts are awkward, uneven. The stalks bend instead of snapping cleanly. The blade nicks your thumb. You grit your teeth and try again. The old man doesn't reprimand you. He simply continues, rhythmically, mechanically. Like the tides of the Nile, he does what must be done. So you learn, slowly, and by midday you are no longer butchering the harvest. Still, your body rebels. Your thighs burn from crouching. Your palms ache from gripping the stick. The sun rests directly above, no shade, no mercy. Sweat pours into your eyes. Your stomach growls with the hunger of exertion, but you dare not stop. At last the girl returns, carrying a small clay bowl. She sets it down beside you without a word. Inside, a paste of lentils and oil, rough bread and a few slivers of dried fish. Your hands tremble as you eat. The salt burns the cracks in your lips, but it doesn't matter. It's the best meal you've had since you arrived. And it's not charity. It's earned. After the meal, you're led to a different task, gathering reeds by the edge of a nearby canal. Here the water moves sluggishly, thick with silt and the glint of hidden creatures beneath its surface. Your job is to collect the longest reeds, cut them with a stone knife and bind them into bundles. These will be used for roofing, for baskets, and for the mats everyone sleeps on. The work is deceptively difficult. The reeds slice the skin. The mud tries to claim your feet. Insects bite your ankles. You lose your balance more than once, falling to the side with a splash, earning only blank stares from the other workers. Embarrassment burns hotter than the sun, but again, you persist. By late afternoon, your hands are stained green, your arms red with welts. But you've filled 2 baskets. The girl returns to inspect them. She doesn't smile, but her eyes soften and she nods. Approval. It's a strange sensation, earning the respect of a child. But in this world, age is not always the measure of worth. Here, even the young bear the weight of survival. As you walk back to the village, dusk paints the sky in soft amber and violet. The Nile reflects it all like polished obsidian. Boats drift lazily along its banks, long, narrow vessels with woven sails, crewed by men singing low songs that rise and fall like the tide. You catch a few words. Not enough to translate, but enough to feel. This is not just a place of toil. It is a place of rhythm, of ritual, of old magic. As night approaches, you pass the temple again. This time a fire burns at its base. Priests chant in voices both soothing and strange. The scent of incense coils into the air, frankincense, myrrh, and something deeper, darker. People gather, not in mourning but in reverence. You stop, drawn to the sound, and then you see it. A statue, enormous and carved from black stone, is being slowly wheeled from within the temple. Torches flicker across its surface, revealing a god's face, half beast, half human, with the head of a jackal and eyes that seem too aware. It is Anubis, guardian of the dead. The people fall to their knees. So do you. Not out of belief, not yet, but out of instinct. Here gods are not myth. They are presence. The air trembles with reverence. Children bow, old men weep. The high priest lifts his arms and cries out a name. Not a god's, a king's, Pharaoh. And then you understand, even now, in this dusty village at the edge of the known world, everything, every reed cut, every brick stacked, every grain threshed, leads upward, toward him, toward the divine ruler whose will binds heaven and earth, and you're a speck in his empire, but a speck that is still somehow alive. You wake on the 5th day to a sound you haven't heard before. Drums. Not the heavy ceremonial drums of a funeral procession, but a lighter rhythm, playful, hypnotic, persistent. They echo from beyond the clay huts and narrow alleys, rolling over the roofs like a morning breeze laced with anticipation. Something is happening. You rise, slower now. Every muscle in your body groans as if to protest your choice to survive another day here. Your hands, once clumsy and uncalloused, now bear faint traces of utility, scabs over the softness, stiffness in your grip. You stretch your back, brush away the dust, and follow the sound. The village is moving. But it's not like before. Today there is colour. Strips of dyed cloth flutter in the wind, red, ochre, lapis blue. Women paint their faces with crushed minerals, their eyes outlined with thick black coal that sweeps to the temples like wings. Men wear finer linen, some with beaded collars hanging from their necks. Even the children are different today. No mud, no dung, no silent chores. They laugh, run, and chase one another with bits of woven papyrus tied like feathers to their arms. You ask no questions. No one would answer. But your instincts say follow. You join the slow current of people flowing toward the village's northern edge. A great wooden platform has been erected there, built from palm trunks and covered in mats. On it stands a small group of musicians. One plays the harp, another a double pipe, and the rest beat those same mesmerizing drums. At the center of the platform is something draped in cloth shaped like a large box. You stand on the edge of the gathering crowd, unsure where to place yourself. Then you hear it. The name again. Pharaoh. It ripples through the crowd like wind through reeds. Whispers, chants, quiet repetitions. But this time there's a new word attached to it. A different name. A name that burns on every tongue with reverence and fear. Apep, the enemy of Ra. The serpent of chaos. Today is not just a celebration, it is a reenactment of battle. You realize slowly that you are about to witness something sacred, not in the distant, smoky reverence of the temple, but in raw, public theatre. This is myth come alive, and you are surrounded by believers. A young man climbs onto the platform. His chest is bare, painted with swirling black ink to mimic scales. In his hand a coiled rope, on his head a crown of twisted reeds. He hisses, arches his back, and writhes like a serpent. Children cheer and throw sand at his feet. Then, from the other side of the crowd, another figure appears, taller, older, clad in golden linen and a mask that shines even in the soft light. A falcon's beak juts forward. It is Horus. Behind him, a group of boys dressed as stars, their bodies glimmering with powdered metal. They clash, not in violence but in ritual. The serpent hisses and strikes, but Horus stands firm, raising his staff to the sky. The crowd chants a call and response that grows with each movement. The music accelerates, the drums pounding like a racing heart. You are transfixed, not because it is strange, but because it feels familiar. Theatre, storytelling, the human need to explain what cannot be touched. The battle of light and darkness, of order and chaos. But here it is more than story. It is necessity. Because in ancient Egypt, myth is not abstract. It is scaffolding. It is foundation. The rising of the Nile, the shifting of the stars, the promise of harvest, the movement of time itself, these depend on the gods winning their battles again and again, and the people's job is to believe them into victory. The serpent falls. The crowd erupts, not in wild cheers but in solemn, rhythmic claps. A blessing is spoken. An elder walks through the crowd with a pot of burning herbs, letting the smoke drift over bowed heads. You bow too, though no one tells you to. You feel it in your bones. The ritual ends, and just as suddenly it becomes celebration. Music shifts. People begin to dance. Bread is passed around, soaked in honey and wine. Children leap and chase one another again. Laughter returns like a tide rushing back after drought. A woman near you offers a drink from a gourd. It is sweet, sharp, and strong. You cough, and she laughs, patting your back. For a few moments you feel something close to joy. And then, as the sun reaches its zenith, a change. A group of soldiers arrives, not many, 5 or 6, but their presence sends a ripple through the gathering. They are not villagers. Their clothes are clean, their bronze weapons gleam. One wears a small leopard skin sash, a symbol you don't recognize, but the crowd clearly does. People make way, not out of fear, but obedience. The celebration pauses. One of the soldiers begins to speak. The words are crisp, practiced, formal. You catch only fragments, place names, numbers, references to grain, to taxes, to decrees from Memphis. He reads from a papyrus scroll, his voice cold and sharp like a chisel tapping stone. And just like that, the mood shifts again. The crowd listens, but the joy drains from their faces. A woman sighs. A man lowers his head. The taxes are due. The pharaoh, in all his distant divinity, still requires his due. Every stalk harvested, every fish caught, every jar filled must be counted, recorded, surrendered. Even in myth, you owe the world. You watch as tokens are handed over, small clay tablets, symbols of quotas. Some grumble, some no one refuses. One man, older than the rest, speaks out. Not in anger, but with a plea. He gestures toward the river, toward his swollen ankle, toward a bag that looks half full. The soldier listens, then shakes his head. The man kneels. The soldier places a hand on the man's head and says something softly. Then he turns and walks away. The celebration resumes, but softer now. More careful. The joy has edges again. You walk back through the village, full of questions you cannot ask, and a new understanding. Even in the glow of gods, even in the wonder of story, the system watches. The pharaoh blesses and demands. He is light and shadow. He is myth and monarch. And you, foreigner, outcast, silent witness, you now know this world is more than hard labor and sunburnt backs. It is a performance. And survival is knowing your part. The 6th morning doesn't come with music or ritual. It creeps in quietly, with a sharp chill that cuts through the usual warmth of the Egyptian sun. You wake before the others, curled against the same patch of wall, your body sore in new places. There's a dampness in the air, and for the first time you feel cold. Not the cold of winter, Egypt doesn't truly have winters the way you know them. But a Nile chill, when the humidity thickens before dawn and the winds sweep down from the highlands, can pierce you deeper than snow. It clings to your skin, enters your breath. You huddle into yourself and watch the sun struggle to break through the mist curling along the river. The village stirs slowly. No drums, no chatter, just the crunch of sandals on dry earth, the clink of clay jars, the heavy yawns of people who worked too late and slept too little. Today, you are sent to the river. You don't ask why. You don't need to. A man gestures to you, same leathery face, same cracked hands, and leads you along a path overgrown with thorny scrub. You pass palm trees bent in the morning wind and low bushes buzzing with insects. At the edge of the riverbank, boats wait. Long, narrow, lashed together from planks and papyrus cord. They smell of salt and sun and fish. You are handed a basket and a net. The task is clear, fishing. This is different from everything you've done. It's quieter, more solitary. The water moves with its own rhythm, slow, deceptive. Its surface is glass, but beneath hides an ecosystem more ancient than any king. Crocodiles, eels, catfish with mouths large enough to snap your fingers. You watch the others. They don't speak. They squat near the shore, toss their nets, wait, pull, over and over. The movements are delicate, like weaving. One man hums softly, a repetitive tune that sounds like an invocation. Not to gods, but to the river itself. You imitate them, casting your net with both hands. It lands poorly, tangling in the reeds. You try again, and again. On the fourth attempt, something tugs. You pull, excited, too quickly, and the net rips, the catch escaping back into the silt. No one scolds you, but one man, older than the rest, approaches. He doesn't speak, but takes your net, shows you the motion again. Slow, intentional. A half turn of the wrist, a pause before the pull. He hands it back. You try again. This time it lands well. You wait, and when you pull, your net rises heavy. A fish, writhing and silver, slaps into your basket. You stare at it, alive, unfamiliar, slick with Nile mud. It glares at you with glassy eyes, its gills fluttering like whispers. You've caught your first meal in this world. It changes something in you. Not pride, not yet, but proof. You are not entirely useless. The sun climbs higher, the mist vanishes, the chill gives way to sweat once more. You keep fishing. By noon you've caught 4. Others catch more, some less, but no one boasts. Here success is not celebrated, it is expected. A boy, barely older than 10, guts the fish on a stone slab. His hands move quickly, expertly. Blood seeps into the dirt. Gulls circle above, shrieking. You flinch at the mess, the smell. He doesn't. You realize then, no one here is squeamish. Life is raw. Death is familiar. Everything bleeds and everything is used. By early afternoon, the catch is done. The boats are dragged ashore. Baskets are divided. Some fish are salted and laid on mats to dry. Others are cooked over small clay ovens. The smell is sharp and savory, tinged with herbs and smoke. A portion is handed to you, without a word. You eat beside the same group you fished with. No conversation, just chewing, just nods. A kind of fellowship forms, not born of language, but of labour. Later you are taken to a different spot along the river, a series of rectangular pits carved into the earth, half filled with muddy water. A man, tall and silent, gestures for you to follow him in. At first you think it's a bath, but the stench tells you otherwise. It's not for washing, it's for tanning. Animal hides float in the pits, weighed down with stones. The water stinks of decay and chemicals you cannot name. Lime, urine, perhaps fermented barley. The smell clings to your nose, your skin, your soul. Your task is to stir. The man hands you a paddle, nods and steps back. You step into the pit, sinking ankle-deep into sludge, and begin. With each churn, a bubble rises. With each motion, your stomach turns. But you keep going, because that's what people do here. They endure. The tanner watches you work. After a while, he gestures toward a second pit. You move. He joins you. For the next hour you stir side by side, silent. His hands are stained permanently brown. His eyes are red-rimmed from fumes. And yet he works without pause, without resentment. When it's done, you climb out, legs trembling. He offers you a bit of cloth to wipe your hands, then nods once and leaves. That night you try to sleep, but the stench follows you. It's in your hair, your nails, your lungs. You lie on your mat, staring at the sky, stars flickering like ancient eyes. And you wonder how they do it. These people who breathe in death, who kneel in filth, who fish and gut and stir and tan, and yet still sing when the gods appear. But maybe that's the secret. Maybe it's not the rituals or the myths that hold them together. Maybe it's the repetition, the rhythm, the agreement, unspoken but eternal. I suffer, you suffer, we live. And for now, you do. The seventh morning brings with it something unexpected. Stillness. Not the heavy, mournful stillness of death or drought, but a suspended breath. As if the entire village has paused to listen for something distant, something approaching. You feel it before you know it. The people rise slowly. There is no urgent clatter of chores, no barking orders. Even the children stay close to their homes. You sense the change in the air. It smells cleaner somehow. The dust isn't swirling like it usually does. The wind carries a whisper but no direction. Then the horn sounds, deep, hollow, drawn out like the call of a dying conch. It vibrates through your bones before your ears even register it. You look around. The people are already moving, swiftly but without panic. Like a drill they've practiced 1,000 times. You are grabbed by the elbow by a woman you've never spoken to before. Her grip is firm, but not cruel. She points toward the fields. You don't argue, you run. You and dozens of others spill from the village onto the leveled land near the river. Not the cultivated plots you helped harvest earlier in the week. This is different. Open, flat, hardened by trampling feet. A wide plain framed by reeds and low trees. At its edge you see the riders. They emerge from the heat, shimmer like ghosts, 5, 6, then 10 figures on horseback. Horses. The sight alone strikes you. No one in your village owns one. These animals are powerful, foreign, their riders cloaked in red and ochre with bronze weapons strapped across their backs. Soldiers? No. Raiders. Your heart lurches. The woman pushes you again, harder this time, and you join the others in forming a line. But not a defensive one, a labour line. You are going to serve. This is not a battle. It is tribute. Within minutes, large baskets of grain, fish, linen, and dried herbs are carried to the plain's centre. The villagers walk in silence, placing their offerings into a growing pile. The riders remain motionless. They say nothing. Watch everything. The leader dismounts. He is young. His face is clean-shaven, but his eyes are old, not tired, hardened. His chest plate gleams, and around his neck hangs a pendant shaped like a coiled cobra. He doesn't shout. He gestures, and a subordinate reads from a scroll. You understand none of the words, but the tone is unmistakable. Inspection. The offerings are counted, measured, judged. An old man's basket of fish is inspected. A rider kneels, lifts a dried fish, sniffs it, and then tosses it aside with disgust. The rider speaks sharply, and the old man is dragged forward. There is no ceremony. The punishment is swift. A rod to the back, not fatal, not even prolonged. Just enough. Enough to send a message. Everyone watches. No one speaks. The old man is allowed to return to the crowd. He does not cry. He does not look up. He only bows his head and takes his place at the edge. And the offerings continue. Eventually, the leader of the riders raises a hand. The tribute is accepted. The tension releases, not as a cheer, but as a quiet exhale that spreads through the bodies around you. Relief. Temporary. Familiar. The riders mount again. Before leaving, the leader scans the crowd. His eyes stop on you. Your heart stops. For a moment, he studies your face with a strange look. Not suspicion, not curiosity, but calculation. You stand still, resisting the instinct to lower your gaze. Your clothes are dirty, your skin sunburnt. You are no threat. Then he turns away, and the riders vanish, swallowed again by heat and distance. You return to the village in silence. No one speaks of what happened. No one says the word tribute. It is as common as rain and as ancient as the soil beneath your feet. But that night, the fire burns longer than usual. Not for warmth, for memory. Around the flames, stories are told. Not loud, not boastful, but careful. You can't understand the words, but the tone is unmistakable. A woman speaks of a child taken in a past raid. A man speaks of grain stolen in drought. Another describes a time when no tribute was given. The punishment was not a rod, it was fire. You sit on the edge of the gathering, unseen, listening to voices shaped by survival. Their faces flicker in the firelight, young and old, lined and smooth. Their stories are not for you, but you are here, and you listen. Later, when the fire has burned low and the stars return to their places, you stare into the embers and wonder how many nights like this have come before. How many will come again? In this world, power is not in who builds or who believes. It is in who takes and who endures what is taken. Day 8 breaks with the slow awakening of dust and wind. There's no horn today, No soldiers, no ceremony, just the whisper of morning breezes combing through palm fronds and stirring the thin linen hanging from doorways. Life returns to its rhythm, as if yesterday's shadow never crossed the village. But you feel it still, like smoke clinging to a garment. You're called early, by name, or something like it. A low, guttural syllable spat from the lips of a man with deep creases etched into his forehead. He doesn't wait for your response. He just gestures, flicks his hand, and begins walking. You follow. Today, you're being taken far from the river, away from the mud and the familiar rustling of reeds. The path turns east, toward a ridge of sandstone cliffs that rise in the distance like petrified waves. The sun is not yet high, and the light stretches long and golden across the terrain. You climb with 3 others, a boy with a bundle of ropes, a woman with jars of pitch, and a wiry man carrying a mallet and chisel. It takes an hour. When you reach the plateau, you see them. Tombs, dozens, carved into the cliffs like mouths open in silent warning. Some are simple cavities, others are grand, framed with columns, flanked by fading statues, their walls etched with symbols you can't read but feel. Hieroglyphs. The man with the chisel spits into the dust and begins working without a word. The others do too. The woman unseals a jar and starts brushing black pitch into the cracks of a wall. The boy unfurls rope and begins tying it into a crude pulley. You are handed a bundle of flat, sharp stones, scrapers, and shown to a wall already half cleared of debris. Your task, clean the surface. Not with water. That would erode the stone. You must scrape it gently, methodically, removing centuries of dust and hardened mud. Each motion must be measured. If you press too hard, the symbols beneath might vanish. So you work, for hours in silence, under a sun that begins to bake the cliff face like a kiln. The others work beside you, equally quiet. They are not labourers in the usual sense. There is something different here, a reverence even in their exhaustion. This is not field work. This is service, to the dead. You scrape carefully, revealing parts of figures beneath the grime, legs stepping forward, hands holding staffs, eyes wide and almond-shaped. Colours remain, though faded. Reds and golds and a particular blue that seems to glow even in shadow. You are restoring memory. At midday, you're given water and a bit of dried fig. The boy with the rope speaks softly to you, just a word, and then repeats it, pointing to the chiseler. A name, you think. You try to say it back. He nods, then points to you. Waits. You say your own name. He repeats it, fails, laughs. It's the first laughter you've heard in 2 days. Later, you're invited to watch the inside of a tomb, one recently sealed. It's a small chamber, cool and fragrant with resin and incense. The walls are painted with vibrant scenes, ritual feasts, offerings to gods, the dead man sailing across the sky in a boat made of stars. At the centre, a stone sarcophagus, lid closed. Around it, jars, baskets, necklaces, tools. Not for decoration. For travel. The afterlife here is not a place of rest. It is a journey. They believe that when one dies, the soul must cross fields, gates, even judgment halls. It must answer questions, speak spells, and prove its worth. The heart is weighed against a feather. If it is heavier, if it bears guilt, it is devoured. By Amit, half lion, half crocodile, all final. You are told none of this, but you feel it. The power, the intention, the gravity of death treated not as an end, but a transformation. As the sun begins to dip, the workers begin closing the tomb again. Not sealing it, just covering the entrance with stone slabs to keep out animals and thieves. The chiseler gestures for you to help. You do, pressing your shoulder against a block heavier than you've ever moved. Together you slide it into place. When it's done, the woman places a hand on the stone and mutters something. A prayer. A farewell. Then they begin the descent. On the way down, you glance back once. The cliff face is calm now, bathed in the rose light of sunset. Dozens of tombs, lined like books on a shelf, each one a story of a life, preserved in silence. You realize then, the dead are not gone here. They are tended, fed, named, feared, loved. This place isn't obsessed with death because it worships darkness. It's because in a world so fragile, so dependent on flood and grain and sun and silence, death is the only constant, the only doorway no one escapes. And so they prepare, not in despair but in devotion. You walk back in silence, your feet aching, your shoulders bruised, but your mind burns. Because for the first time since you arrived, you understand this world doesn't just ask you to survive. It asks you to remember. The 9th day begins before the light returns. You are woken not by the sun, but by the shuffling of feet and the faint sound of fabric rustling. At first, in your half-sleeping state, you mistake it for a dream, a parade of ghostly forms weaving past you in silence. But when your eyes open fully, you see them. Figures draped in long linen, their heads covered, their footsteps deliberate. You sit up. They ignore you. Their procession moves through the village with the quiet efficiency of those performing something sacred. Each carries a small jar or basket, some filled with herbs, others with folded linens, and one with a flickering clay lamp. You watch them vanish down the path leading toward the temple. The stars are still overhead, and you are curious. You rise slowly, stretching joints that feel older than they should. The air is cold, but not biting. It smells of damp reed mats, faint incense, and something metallic. You follow, careful not to be seen, keeping your distance as you trail behind them. The path to the temple is familiar now, but at night it is transformed. The pillars seem taller, the carvings deeper. The god forms carved into the walls flicker in the lamplight as though breathing. You crouch behind a low wall, and you watch. The group enters a small antechamber to the side of the main temple, a side sanctum hidden from the common folk. 2 men remain outside, guarding the doorway. They wear plain linen but hold staffs tipped with copper. Their faces are unreadable. Inside, the murmuring begins. You can't understand the words, but the tone is unmistakable, invocation. The sound is rhythmic, chanted low and slow. One voice begins, another answers, a call and reply, a weaving of breath and belief. Occasionally, the chant stops, replaced by the soft clink of ceramic or the crackle of fire catching oil. You see shadows dancing on the wall, arms raised, heads bowed, movements flowing like water. Then you hear a name repeated again and again. Osiris, the god of the dead, the first mummy, the king who was dismembered and reassembled, the one who waits in the next world with open arms and silent judgment. Suddenly a strong sweet scent floods the air, resin, myrrh, and something sharper. It drifts from the chamber like smoke from a censer. The guards do not move. Their eyes are on the horizon now, where the first blush of dawn begins to bloom. You stay hidden, but your mind is racing. You realize what you're witnessing. This is not an ordinary prayer. This is embalming. You've heard the word before, back in your time. Read about it in museums, seen it in dimly lit exhibitions, linen-wrapped bodies under glass, their faces locked in expressions long forgotten. But here it is not academic. It is a rite, a ritual older than most languages. They are preparing a body. You don't know who. A noble? A priest? Someone important, surely. The common dead are buried in sand or simple pits. But this is preparation for eternity. Later, when the sky turns from violet to rose, the group emerges. Their hands are stained. Their faces shine with sweat. They carry empty jars now, used linens, tools wrapped in cloth. A few glance around but do not notice you in the shadows. They walk slowly. Not from exhaustion, but from reverence. You return to the village quietly, just as others begin to stir. The familiar rhythm resumes, grinding grain, hauling water, sweeping thresholds. You rejoin it as if nothing happened, but the images stay with you. The stillness, the chanting, the name, Osiris. Later in the day, you are sent to work on a construction site just beyond the village, a new granary being built of sun-dried brick. The foreman is strict, his voice sharp, but his commands are clear. You carry baskets of clay and sand, mixing them in wide, shallow pits with your feet. The texture is thick and sticky, clinging to your legs like wet rope. It is exhausting, mindless work, but it allows your thoughts to drift. You think of the dead, and how much effort this world puts into honoring them. You've seen more care for corpses than for the living. And it makes sense. Because in ancient Egypt, death is not the end of the story. It is the continuation, the perfection, the hope. They fear the chaos of the unknown, but they fight it with ritual, with mummification, with stories and spells and long sleepless nights spent tending to the body like a house that must be sealed against storms. By the time the sun falls, your legs ache. Your hands are raw from handling rough baskets, but your heart is quiet. You understand more now. This is not a society obsessed with dying. It is a society obsessed with what must come after. And everything, every temple, every chant, every slab of bread offered in a tomb, is a brick in the bridge they hope will carry them there. By the 10th day, you no longer expect comfort. The reed mat beneath you is as familiar as it is unforgiving. Your body has become its own strange language, ribs bruised from lifting, legs stiff from crouching, fingers blistered from the endless friction between skin and rope, stone or basket. But your mind has begun to adapt. You no longer wake in confusion, you wake with purpose. Today the sky is a milky grey, veiled by thin clouds that soften the sunlight without hiding it. The village feels quieter. The usual urgency is gone, replaced with something more deliberate. People still work, but they move differently, with ceremony, with care. It is market day. You learn this without anyone telling you. You hear it in the buzz of preparation, the careful wrapping of woven mats, the counting of tokens, the weighing of jars. A woman you've never spoken to hands you a bundle of dried onions and points to the road that leads west toward the larger settlement at the edge of your known world. You're being sent. Not alone, thankfully. A group walks together. Men carrying fish sealed in mud-lined pots, women balancing stacks of dyed cloth, an old man dragging a cart of shaped flint and obsidian blades. Children follow at a distance, hoping for scraps or adventure. You walk at the back, unsure if you are trusted or simply expendable. The journey takes hours. The land changes slowly, palms become sparser, the path widens. Hills rise like sleeping gods in the distance. And for the first time since you arrived, you see a place that feels big. The market sits on a flat, elevated plain, a network of stalls shaded with linen and reeds, crowded with people from other villages. It is loud. Voices argue, laugh, chant. The scent is overwhelming. Fermented grain, roasted beans, burning herbs, and sweat. So much sweat. You're instructed to sit with the others and watch the goods. That is your job. A simple one. But your eyes drink in the world. You see things you've never imagined. A Nubian trader with dark tattoos across his arms, his donkeys laden with gold dust and ivory. A woman from the Delta region selling painted ostrich eggs. A Greek-speaking stranger offering polished beads of a deep, luminous blue. And near the far corner, under a canopy of purple cloth, a man carving amulets from green stone shaped like beetles' eyes, feathers, scarabs, symbols of protection, of rebirth. He notices you staring, he gestures, you hesitate, then approach, slowly, respectfully. He says something in a dialect you barely recognize. You shake your head. He laughs, then holds up a scarab and places it in your palm. It's small, cool, heavier than it looks. On its back, carved lines in a script you cannot read. He points to it, then to your chest, then taps his own. Heart. You nod. He smiles, but he doesn't let you keep it. He takes it back gently and returns to his work. You understand. Nothing is free here, but everything has meaning. Later, you watch a transaction unfold nearby. A woman trades 6 pots of beer for a necklace made of lapis beads. Another offers grain for a spool of linen dyed with safflower. Money exists, yes, small rings of copper and silver, but it is rare. Most here trade in value measured by use, not number. You see barter turn to negotiation, negotiation to argument, argument to violence. A pot shatters, a man shouts, a woman slaps another across the face. For a moment you think it will escalate, but it doesn't. A priest intervenes, his voice low and calm. The crowd parts, tension dissolving like water into sand. The broken pot is swept away. The market resumes. As the sun begins to descend, casting everything in gold, you're called to help load the unsold goods. Your bundle of onions is lighter now. You helped sell 3 to a man with a limp and a mouthful of missing teeth. He paid in dried fish. Your first successful trade. Small, but something. The walk home is slower, quieter. The children sleep in slings, the old man hums. You carry a jar of oil and 2 fish earned in barter, given back to the woman who trusted you with the onions. She says nothing, but she places a piece of honeyed cake in your hand before walking away. You eat it slowly. Sweetness is rare here. It coats your tongue with a softness you haven't tasted since your arrival. And for a moment you close your eyes and forget the dust, the labor, the silence. That night the stars seem lower, brighter, closer, and you understand something new. Egypt survives not just through gods and stone, but through people, through trade, through trust. Through the invisible lines that tie basket to hand to mouth, mouth to story. In this world, you don't rise by strength alone. You rise by belonging. The 11th day opens not with the sky, but with the earth. You are roused before sunrise by a deep, resonant thud. At first you think it's thunder, an impossible sound in a land so dry, but it comes again. Closer, more deliberate. When you sit up, others are already moving, not rushing, but with purpose, gathering tools, water skins, and ropes. The same stern man who once led you to the tombs now stands at the edge of the village. He raises his hand, points to a group, then to the east. Your name, or the sound that now passes for it, is called. You are chosen. The journey begins in silence. A dozen of you follow a narrow trail carved by feet older than memory. You walk through waist-high grass that rustles with hidden movement. Lizards dart ahead. Once a jackal watches from the ridge before disappearing into the shadows. Hours pass. The cliffs rise around you again, but these are not the painted tombs of nobility. These are older. Raw. Stone rising in jagged angles, the colour of old bones. You arrive at a pit, wide, deep, steep-walled, and at the bottom, the source of the sound. Men breaking stone. You descend with caution, dust slipping beneath your sandals. The air grows hotter as you drop, the sun bouncing off the rock faces like heat from a kiln. At the base, you're handed a tool, something between a chisel and an axe, its wooden handle slick with sweat and use. You are here to quarry. The first strike sends a jolt through your arm. The stone does not yield, it mocks you. You adjust your grip, try again. Sparks jump, tiny chips fall. Around you others strike in rhythm, not with violence, but with persistence, over and over. The walls ring like bells muffled in sand. You quickly learn this is not about power. It is about angle, about patience. Stone is stubborn, but it speaks eventually. It cracks in thin lines like ancient veins. You follow them, pry them open, one flake at a time. Nearby, a boy no older than 15 is guiding a copper saw with slow, exacting care. It takes him over an hour to free a single slab, and when it breaks free, 2 men lift it onto a wooden sled. You are told to help haul it up the slope. It takes 4 of you. The climb is brutal. The ropes bite into your palms. Your feet slip. Dust fills your throat. But you make it, barely emerging into the sunlight with the weight of history strapped to your spine. You collapse beside the others, your breath jagged. No one mocks you, they've all done it. After water is passed around, warm and smoky from the leather skin, it's back down again, and again, and again. You lose count. At some point you stop thinking. The world becomes stone and sweat and rhythm, the chisel's edge, the angle of the crack, the groan of the sled. You are no longer a visitor, you are a cog. By late afternoon, the foreman calls a halt, not with words, but with a whistle, a sharp, clear tone that echoes off the quarry walls. Tools are dropped, packs are lifted. You begin the journey back, this time heavier, each man carrying something, rope, water, a fragment of stone, even just exhaustion. But not silence. One of the men begins to sing, low, almost a murmur. Another joins him, then another. You don't know the words, but you catch the pattern. It's not joyous, not sorrowful, it's grounding. A chant of endurance. A thread to bind bodies together through pain. You hum along. No one stops you. As dusk settles, the village reappears, small, smoke-threaded, glowing with evening fires. You are too tired to eat, but a woman presses something into your hand as you pass, a bundle of herbs wrapped in cloth. Fragrant, bitter. You chew it without question. It numbs your tongue and dulls the ache in your legs. That night, your dreams are full of stone. Not falling, not crushing. Just waiting, ancient, patient, eternal. And you, a small figure with a chisel, tapping out your shape in the wall of time, not to be remembered, but to belong. By the 12th day, your hands no longer feel like yours. The skin is coarse, textured like rope, peppered with tiny white scars from stone, from splinters, from unclean tools. Your palms ache even at rest. But the pain has dulled, not in intensity, but in your attention to it. The way you no longer notice the pulse of your own breath. It's simply part of you now. The day begins in smoke. Thin columns drift lazily across the village, rising from hearths and clay ovens. But there's a different scent in the air today, one that stings the back of your throat. Acrid, sharp. You follow it through narrow paths until you reach the square where several men are stoking a fire beneath a stone basin. Others stand beside them, rolling molten beads in shallow pans filled with sand. You found the metal workers. They are few, guarded by their tools and fire, respected by distance. Their station is simple. Stone blocks, wooden tongs, shallow crucibles, but the work they do is anything but. Bronze. It gleams like sunlit honey, thick and slow when poured, deadly when hardened. You are not invited. You are chosen. One of the men gestures for you to step forward. He's broad-shouldered and blind in one eye, a strip of dark cloth tied around his forehead. He hands you a long wooden rod tipped with a curve of bone, something between a scoop and a hook. You're assigned to the bellows. The forge breathes through you. You learn quickly that the fire lives only if you feed it rhythmically. Too much air and it roars out of control. Too little and the metal cools, becoming stubborn and lumpy. Your arms tire fast, but you keep the flow steady. The master craftsman, if that's what he is, melts the copper and tin together in a bowl as if stirring porridge. The moment it shimmers like liquid gold, he lifts it with 2 bent rods and pours it into a narrow mould. The sound is like nothing else. A low hiss, a sigh of transformation, from dust to shape, from ore to tool. You are shown the cooled forms later, arrowheads, chisels, even a small knife with a curved handle and intricate design etched into the hilt. The master traces the symbol with his blackened fingertip, a falcon, wings outstretched. You recognize it. Horus, protector of kings. He smiles at you then, the first true smile you've seen in days. His teeth are chipped. His face is dark with soot. But the warmth is real. You're offered a drink, fermented barley water. It's sour and flat, but you drink it gratefully. The warmth settles in your chest. In the afternoon, the rhythm shifts. The smiths begin melting scrap, broken tools, twisted blades, even old nails, and reforging them. Nothing is wasted here. Every piece returns. Every failure is reheated, reshaped. There is a lesson in that. You help pour one of the molds. Your hands tremble, the heat licking dangerously close to your skin, but you manage it. The metal hardens into a spearhead, smooth and sharp. The master lifts it, examines it, then places it beside the others. No praise, no correction, just inclusion. Before the day ends, you see another process, smelting ore. You follow the others into a shallow cave near the edge of the settlement, where dark red rock is piled high. Malachite, crushed into fine powder. The dust clings to your skin, stains your nails green. You help carry baskets of it back to the forge, where it will be reduced to something usable. Everything here is transformation. Fire doesn't destroy, it reveals. As the sun lowers, the metalworkers extinguish their fires with sand and ash. The coals hiss and crackle. Tools are laid to rest like sleeping animals. The men wash in silence, scrubbing soot from their arms with rough cloth and bitter herbs. You do the same. That night, your skin smells of smoke, but your thoughts are clear. You begin to understand why they revere the gods of creation, of heat, of alchemy. This land is full of them. Gods not only of rain and sun, but of forge and chisel and mould. Gods who do not command, but shape. And maybe in some way you are being shaped too. Slowly, roughly, but into something that fits. On the 13th day, you rise with the weight of the forge still in your lungs. The scent of soot lingers in your hair. Your arms ache with the rhythm of bellows still echoing in their sinews. But the world around you has already shifted. You feel it the moment you step out from your sleeping place. The village is abuzz, not with work, but with preparation. People are cleaning, not their homes or tools, but themselves. A woman pours water from a large clay jar over her child's head, scrubbing his scalp with something foamy and aromatic. Men shave their faces carefully using polished copper blades, their movements precise. The older ones trim their beards short, others go entirely smooth, their chins shining with oil afterward. Even the children are quieter today. You're handed a small bundle of cloth and a jar with pale grey powder. A girl mimics the motion of rubbing it into her arms, then gestures to you. You obey. The scent is earthy, spiced, like crushed lotus and something citrus. She nods once, satisfied. This isn't grooming, it's preparation. A ceremony is coming. You follow the villagers toward the temple. Today, the wide court outside its walls is being transformed. Fresh palm leaves have been spread across the ground. Jars of oil are lit in long rows, their flames low and steady in the early sun. Incense smoulders on terracotta discs, curling smoke that dances as though it knows the steps already. At the heart of it all is a platform draped in linen dyed the colour of dark wine. And standing at its base, a figure unlike any you've seen before. A priest. Not like the men who oversaw tributes or led chants in the distance. This one is taller, cloaked in robes stitched with golden thread, his head shaven smooth, his skin gleaming with oil. Around his neck hang beads of lapis, turquoise, carnelian, stones that would be locked behind glass in your world, but here sway with the breath of his prayers. His eyes scan the crowd. Then the drums begin. Not the slow, mournful rhythm of funerals, nor the wild cadence of festivals, but something deliberate, steady, ceremonial. With each beat, the villagers lower themselves to their knees, heads bowed. You do the same. Even now, not fully knowing what you are witnessing, you feel the gravity of it. The air is heavy, not with heat, but with presence. The priest speaks. The words roll like river water over stone, ancient, formal, rehearsed. He raises his hands to the east, then to the west, then lifts a curved scepter of gold. Behind him, temple doors open slowly, and out they come. The statues, carried by teams of men veiled in cloth, heavy on gilded platforms. One by one, the gods arrive, not in thunder, not in lightning, but in procession. Isis, Thoth, Sekhmet, Bastet, each with the head of beast or bird, the body of man, the stance of power. They are brought to the platform and placed side by side. The priest chants louder now. His voice rises with the wind. A woman steps forward and scatters lotus petals. Another lights a bowl of fat that bursts into tall flame. This is not for tourists. This is not symbolic. This is communion. You begin to understand the stakes. These gods are not ideas, not metaphors. They are protectors, punishers, witnesses. Their names are said daily. Their stories are taught from infancy. Their presence is not hoped for, it is assumed. When crops fail, it is because a ritual was neglected. When a child recovers, it is because a god was appeased. The ceremony continues for hours. Offerings are made, bread, beer, honey, spices. Dancers move in a wide arc, their hands fluttering like birds, their feet silent on the reeds. Flutes join the drums, and for a time the world feels suspended, between dust and heaven. You watch, unmoving. And then the priest speaks a name that draws a hush. Pharaoh, not just a ruler, not just a man, but the god walking. A living link between divine and mortal. He is not present, not in body, but his essence, is invoked, praised, reaffirmed. The people chant. The priest lifts a small effigy carved from alabaster. It is crowned, robed, kissed with smoke. You've heard the word before, Ma'at. Balance, order, truth. Today is not about spectacle. It is about realigning the invisible axis of the world. As the sun begins to tilt, the ceremony closes. The statues are veiled again and carried back into the shadows of the temple. The priest's final chant is a soft one, almost a whisper. The drums fall silent. No one claps. The people rise, quiet, calm. It's as though something has been reset. You walk back with the others. A woman with coal-lined eyes hums beside you, her voice no louder than a breeze. A boy carries a jar of leftover incense, cradling it like a prize. A man shares bread with his neighbor without a word. Nothing is explained to you, but everything is felt. Later that evening, the temple remains lit long past nightfall. A single flame flickers in the high alcove, visible from every corner of the village, and you, staring up at it, begin to understand a deeper truth. In ancient Egypt, life is not a straight line. It is a circle, a cycle, a dance. And every step, every ritual, every offering, every whispered name is a way of ensuring that it continues. The 14th day arrives under a sky veiled with a thin haze. The morning sun filters through the dust in soft golden beams, casting shadows that shift with every movement of the village. You wake feeling different. Not rested, not exactly, but less foreign. You no longer startle at unfamiliar sounds or hesitate with every instruction. You know how to follow, how to carry, how to stay unnoticed. But today, something new is expected. You are summoned by an elder. He is not a priest, not a craftsman, not a soldier. He is quiet, robed in linen, faded by sun and years, with hands that shake slightly when he walks. But when he speaks, others lower their eyes. He carries no tool or weapon, yet commands more space than anyone you've met. He doesn't speak to you directly. Instead, a younger man, his scribe perhaps, motions for you to follow. You do. You're taken beyond the village, across low hills where the grass thins and the wind picks up in strange circular patterns. The land is open here, empty at first glance, but the farther you walk, the more you begin to see. Stones, placed deliberately in shapes and rows, circles half buried in earth, slabs covered in carvings worn smooth by time. Some stand upright, leaning at strange angles. Others lie flat, their surfaces cracked like dry skin. This is not a tomb, it is older, more primal. You realize slowly, this is a sacred place, older than temples, a necropolis of memory, not of royalty, but of something deeper, a spiritual geography. The elder kneels before one of the stones and places both hands upon it. He begins to hum, not words, but a sound like wind through reeds. The scribe kneels beside him. You stay back, but they gesture. You are being invited. You step forward cautiously and kneel opposite them. The stone is warm under your palms, the sun having kissed it for hours. Its surface is rough, etched with tiny cuts that form no alphabet you recognize, yet speak in pattern. You close your eyes and listen. The elder hums again. You begin to hear it differently, not as a sound, but as a map, a rhythm of breath, a weight of pauses. It is not music, it is remembering. The stone, the earth, the silence between notes, they are all part of the same sentence. Eventually the elder stops. He speaks to the scribe in a hushed voice. The scribe then points to the horizon, to a group of hills shaped like sleeping giants. He picks up a basket and hands it to you. Inside, bits of broken pottery, lengths of frayed rope, 3 small amulets and a dried lotus bloom. He gestures for you to carry it. You do not ask where, you simply walk with them over the ridge through a narrow cut in the rock where the wind whistles like a distant voice. At the top, another set of stones, smaller, more chaotic in placement, a field of forgotten markers. Here the scribe begins to place items gently into shallow depressions beside the stones. You do the same. It is not an offering, not exactly, it is memory work. You place the rope, frayed and useless, beside a standing stone marked with a faded swirl. You place the lotus beside another, split in 2 by age. Each object matches something unseen. You can't explain how you know, but you feel it, as if the land itself accepts the gesture. The elder sits down and begins to draw in the dust with his finger. He draws a circle, then a line through it, then another circle, then 2 dots. You do not understand it fully, but your breath catches, because it feels familiar, not in shape, but in feeling. This is not a lesson, this is initiation. The scribe begins to speak now. His voice is calm, melodic. He points to the symbols, to the stones, to the basket now empty. You can only grasp fragments. He says Ren, the word for name, then Ba, the soul, then Ka, the vital spark. You've heard these before, whispered in prayers, but here they are placed like bricks in a structure you cannot yet see. Each person is not simply flesh, they are layers, energies, names, echoes. To forget one's name is to die a second death. To be remembered is to continue. The elder finishes his markings and smooths them away with his palm. Nothing permanent, everything borrowed. The walk back is slower. The wind has changed direction, now pushing against your steps, but no one struggles, no one resists. The wind is part of the path, too. As you reach the edge of the village, the elder finally looks at you and nods, just once, then turns and disappears down a different path. You sit alone for a while, beside a half-built wall, watching the dust swirl, and you understand something that was not spoken aloud. In ancient Egypt, the soul is not housed in the body. It is housed in memory, in ritual, in the whisper of a name spoken long after death. And today, by silent invitation, you helped carry someone forward, not their body, not their blood, their echo. The 15th day arrives with wind. It whips through the village before the sun fully rises, tugging at linen coverings, rattling reed fences, lifting loose grains of sand into the air like a veil. The dust doesn't settle. It dances, swirling into corners, under mats, into pots. You cover your mouth with a strip of cloth like the others, eyes squinting against the sting. A storm is not coming. Not rain, not thunder, but the kind of dry, restless wind that travels from the desert's deep heart. The kind that strips colour from stone, buries stories, exposes bones. Today is not for building. Today is for finding. You are called by the same elder who led you to the memory stones. This time he does not hum. His face is tense, his walk brisk. He does not go toward the temples or tombs. He leads you south, away from the Nile, into land that shifts beneath your feet, softer, looser, treacherous. Others follow. 10 or 12, each carrying digging tools, rolled baskets and bundles wrapped in palm fronds. You are handed a thin stick flat at one end, not a spade, a probe, an excavation, not of treasure, of truth. You walk until even the buzz of village life fades. Only the sound of wind and the crunch of sandals remains. The sand here is pale, almost white, broken by patches of dry scrub and the occasional jagged bone of long-dead trees. Then, without warning, the group stops. No marker, no monument, just a patch of sunburnt ground that looks like any other. The elder kneels, brushes his hand across the surface. Dust lifts. He brushes again, slower, revealing something beneath. a line, then a corner, then the edge of a slab, mud brick hardened by time, its shape barely distinguishable from the surrounding earth. He gestures. The work begins. You kneel beside the others and mimic their movements, slow, careful, reverent. This is not digging, it is uncovering. Every motion is guided by restraint. You use the flat end of your stick to shave away sand, fingertips to brush away loosened grit. No shovels, no haste. Within the hour, the outline of a structure emerges, a room. Sunken, rectangular, roof collapsed. The walls are thin but strong. Inside, faint symbols can be seen carved into a portion of plaster still clinging to the eastern side. You lean in, breath shallow, a handprint, faded, small, a child's. You freeze. One of the men begins to speak. The words are quiet, measured. You don't understand them, but you understand the tone. He is telling the story of this place, not inventing it, but remembering it. Not as history, but as presence. You find pottery next, broken pieces, some plain, others painted. Each shard is lifted like it still holds warmth. One woman finds a tiny doll carved from ivory, its head missing, its torso smooth from years of handling. She presses it to her forehead for a moment before passing it to another. It is not grief you feel, it is recognition. This place once breathed, and now in fragments it breathes again. A boy near you uncovers a stone bead. It shines faintly. You see his expression change, not with wonder but with duty. He wraps it in cloth, places it in the bundle of findings. You realize that none of these items will be kept, not for homes, not for shrines. They will be recorded, catalogued, returned to rest. You begin to understand the rhythm of this too. Not everything is for use. Some things are for memory. Some things are for the gods. Some things are for no one at all. By midday, the sun climbs high and cruel. Still, the work continues. You drink in silence, water trickling down your throat like cool stone. Sand clings to your sweat, turns your skin to grit. And then someone gasps. All heads turn. A large flat stone is uncovered. Carved into its face is a scene. A man and woman sitting side by side. In front of them, a table of offerings. Between them, a single child. All of them painted with long, graceful limbs, eyes stretched wide, fingers delicate. You stare. They are gone. But here they remain. The elder steps forward. He does not speak. He kneels, places a palm over the child's image and closes his eyes. When he opens them again, he rises. The work ends, not because it is finished, but because what was needed has been found. The group repacks in silence. You follow, carrying a bundle wrapped tight, inside shards, beads, traces. On the way back, no one speaks. The wind has softened. The sand no longer bites. When you return to the village, the elder marks a symbol at the edge of the path with his staff, a single line between two dots. You do not know what it means, but you feel its weight. That evening, the fire is lit early. The younger children are gathered and told a story, one you cannot understand in words but recognize in rhythm. It is the story of a family lost in sand, remembered by stone, reborn in firelight. You sit at the edge, no one gestures for you to come closer, but no one asks you to leave, and that too is something. On the 16th day you awaken to the sound of hooves, not the chaotic gallop of raiders, not the heavy stomp of soldiers, but the slow, deliberate rhythm of trained animals walking with pride and purpose. When you step outside, rubbing sleep from your eyes, you see them. Horses taller and more elegant than any you've seen yet, their hides gleaming with oil, their manes braided with strands of gold and red thread, and beside them, chariots. Two-wheeled, curved wood rimmed with bronze. Lightweight, yet strong. The wheels seem to float just above the ground, their motion so smooth it looks unnatural. You watch as men adjust the leather straps, check the wooden joints, inspect the tension in the reins. One of the men lifts a bow from the floor of a chariot and tests it against the morning air. You are being summoned again, this time by a young woman. Not a priestess, not a worker. Her linen is finer. Her arms are bare but painted with thin blue lines, and her bracelets clink softly as she gestures. You follow her, down a narrow path along the edge of the village toward a small structure half hidden beneath a low awning of reeds. Inside, tools, but not for farming, not for building, for war. Shields of hide stretched over wooden frames, spears stacked neatly against a wall, arrows with obsidian tips and shafts dyed black. You've seen soldiers before, but this is something different. This is not a garrison, this is a school. And today you will learn something that no field, no temple, no kiln could have prepared you for. They begin with the bow, You are handed one, unstrung. A man with a long scar across his chin shows you how to bend the limbs carefully, how to slip the cord into place with your knee braced against the wood. The first time, you fail. The second, you nearly snap the string. But the third, tight, clean, quiet. He nods, then hands you 3 arrows. The targets are set far, too far you think, painted circles on bundles of reeds, shaped vaguely like animals, gazelles, birds, even a human silhouette. You raise the bow, notching the arrow, mimicking what you've seen in films, in books, in imagination. You release, it sails far wide. Laughable. No one mocks you, they just hand you another, and then another. By the 6th, you strike the outer edge of the target. By the 10th, a thud that raises a brow. Your arm burns, your back aches from the tension. The bow is not light, it resists you, but something else is happening. You begin to hear it. Not the bowstring, the rhythm, the language of draw and release. This is not hunting, this is focus. This is survival reduced to instinct. Next, the spear. A short, sharp weapon meant for quick throws and faster deaths. You're shown the proper grip, the arc of the arm, the step into the motion. It feels unnatural, too direct, too cruel, but you practice. And when your spear thuds into the dirt inches from the target, no one sighs. They simply hand you another, and another. Your hands blister, your shoulders scream. You begin to hate the sun again, but you keep going. Then comes the final lesson of the day, the chariot. You are not allowed to ride, but you help load one. You watch as a man climbs aboard, reins wrapped tight in his fists, bow slung across his back. He whispers something to the horses, not commands. A rhythm, a sound. The horses move, fast. So fast the wind lifts dust into sheets behind them. The wheels spin, the platform bounces, and yet the man stands steady, drawing and firing without pause. Arrows fly, 2 strike their marks. 1 misses, but the crowd nods. You understand now, this is not about war, not entirely. This is about readiness, about balance between man and machine, earth and breath, chaos and control. The chariot is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of mobility, of power, of divine momentum. That evening, the young woman returns. She brings a small bowl filled with water steeped in mint and crushed dates. You drink. It is cold, sweet. She watches you, then gestures to your hands, now red and raw, and presses a salve into your palm. You rub it in without thinking. She does not smile, but she nods. Later, as you sit near the edge of the training grounds, watching the last horses being fed, the last arrows gathered, you feel a strange quiet rising in your chest. Not pride, not accomplishment, but possibility. In ancient Egypt, not everyone is born a warrior, but everyone is expected to be ready for threat, for famine, for gods in strange disguises. And now, for the first time since your arrival, you begin to understand that surviving here is not just about enduring pain, it's about moving with it. The 17th day is different. The air feels heavy the moment you wake, still, thick and unmoving. The breeze that usually stirs the palms has vanished. The insects hum louder. Even the birds, usually busy in their chatter before sunrise, are subdued, as if waiting for something. You sit up slowly. No one is moving quickly today, but they are moving, with purpose, with awareness. There's something in the air, not fear, but caution, the kind that comes before storms or sickness or ceremony. But no one speaks of it. The village goes about its rhythm, but eyes are cast downward. Voices stay low, you don't ask why, instead you follow. You're sent again to the river, but not to fish, not to carry, not to ferry buckets of silt or weave reed baskets. Today the task is stranger, more precise. You're led to a shallow bank where 6 men stand in waist-deep water. In their hands are long wooden poles with wide, flattened ends, a kind of paddle. You're handed one, a gesture to join them. The task, stir, not the water, the mud. You step into the river slowly. The bottom squelches beneath your feet, warm and soft. Tiny crabs scatter. The current is sluggish here, heavy with sediment. At a word from the oldest man, everyone begins. They press their paddles into the riverbed and twist, lift, turn, push, again and again. You don't understand. Until hours later the baskets arrive, carried by boys and girls, light but tightly woven. They line them at the edge of the bank, then step into the stirred water, crouching, scooping mud by hand into each one. The sediment you've loosened settles into these containers like thick grey soup. They are making Nile bricks, but not for houses, for walls, thicker, heavier. Made not just of silt and straw, but fortified with crushed limestone and bits of broken pottery. You see women grinding the materials in large stone bowls, mixing them into the wet clay. This is not casual construction. This is reinforcement for something that is coming. You look around. There are no clouds in the sky, no sign of rain, but the older ones keep glancing at the river, measuring something you cannot see. Then one of the elders speaks. The scribe translates with gestures and careful phrasing. His words are slow, chosen with intention. It is nearing the inundation. You recognize the word. You've read it before, in books, in documentaries. The Akhet, the flood. Not disaster, not devastation, renewal. In ancient Egypt, the flooding of the Nile is not feared, it is prayed for. The river rises, spills over its banks, and deposits a dark, fertile silt across the fields. It makes life possible, but it also washes away anything unprepared. This is why they build, why they dig, why they stir the riverbed and form thicker bricks. Because welcoming the flood is not passive, it's work, it's survival. You help shape the bricks. Thick, heavy. You lift them one by one into rows where they will dry in the sun. Men lay them like puzzle pieces, forming low walls along key paths, reinforcing storage huts, outlining flood channels to divert the water away from homes and granaries. The process is rhythmic, wet, physical, soaked with the scent of earth and sweat. You stop asking questions. You just move. And all day long, the Nile watches. It glimmers lazily now, placid and slow, like a god just waking. But its edges are already higher than they were the day before, just enough to notice. That evening, the work stops early, not from fatigue, but from a strange kind of reverence. People sit in small groups near the water's edge, silent, watching, waiting. Someone lights a torch and places it on a small raft of reeds. The raft is pushed into the current. It drifts. Another follows, then another. Each tiny flame flickers against the deepening blue of the river. No one cheers. No one sings. But you see in their faces a kind of quiet awe. They are speaking to the Nile. Not with voices, with patience, with presence. The torches float, their light growing smaller as they drift downstream. The river carries them with care, as if listening. And for the first time you realize how little you've understood the Nile. Not as a place, but as a being. It feeds, it punishes, it remembers. The flood will come. Not in days, perhaps not even in weeks, but soon. It always does. And when it does, this world will not resist it. It will bow, channel, adapt. You sit beside the others, your skin still damp, your hands caked with silt, and feel the current pull gently against your toes. You are not fighting the river, you are preparing to receive it. The 18th day begins in silver, not in treasure, not in coin, but in light. The Nile shimmers like polished metal beneath a sky still veiled in blue. Thin clouds drift like smoke from unseen incense burners, and the air feels suspended, as if the day itself is waiting to be told what it is. You are woken gently today, not with a barked command, not with a hand on your shoulder, but with a quiet presence beside you. A boy, small, no older than 9, sits beside your mat, barefoot, his knees drawn to his chest. His eyes are round, curious, alert. He doesn't speak, but he gestures for you to follow. You rise without protest. The boy leads you not to the fields, nor to the kiln, nor even toward the river, but toward the hills east of the village. The land here rises slowly, a wide incline scattered with low grasses and wind-smoothed stones. You pass familiar ridges, unfamiliar shrubs. The world grows quieter with each step. At the top, you find her. An old woman, bent but not broken. She sits on a mat woven from rushes, shaded by a frame of wood and linen. Around her, 3 small clay jars, a bowl of dried herbs, and a short staff carved with spirals. Her skin is dark and papery. Her hair, long and braided in thin rows, shines with oil and ash. She doesn't look at you, she looks at the sky. The boy leaves without a word. You stay. For a while, there is only wind. Then she speaks. Not to you, not directly, but to something unseen. Her words are low, full of breath, layered in the crackling rhythm of age and memory. You cannot translate them, but your body understands. It is the voice of someone who has watched many cycles, birth, flood, bloom, burn, and has come to know the language beneath language. She dips her fingers into the jars, paints lines on her arms, her face, her staff, then gestures. To you. She beckons you to sit, and you do. The ceremony begins, not a grand one, not with chants or drums, but with the crushing of leaves, the burning of herbs, the drawing of symbols into the dust. She places a paste on your temples, cool, gritty, bitter-smelling. She traces lines on your wrist, your collarbone, the soles of your feet. Each mark is drawn slowly with intention, as though unlocking something long forgotten. Then from her bowl she draws a pinch of powder. Grey, faintly glinting. She mixes it with water and offers it to you in a carved cup. You hesitate. She waits. You drink. It is sour, then sweet, then burning. Your stomach turns, but not unpleasantly. Your breath slows. The sky seems to grow wider. The shadows brighter. The woman's voice rises again, not louder, but closer. She speaks names. Some you recognize: Isis, Hathor, Nephthys. Others you do not. She speaks of stars, of blood, of wind that knows your name before you are born. She draws a circle in the sand and places a stone in the center. Then, with a whisper, she crushes it beneath her palm, dust. She brushes it away, and with that the ritual ends. She stands slowly with the help of her staff. Then turns from you, facing the east, and remains there, still, silent. You return alone. Walking back through the quiet hills, something in your vision has shifted. Colors feel heavier, sounds move slower. The scent of time in the wind lingers longer than it should. The village appears as if emerging from smoke. You do not speak of what happened. But when the boy sees you again, he smiles, just briefly, then goes back to weaving rope as though nothing had changed, yet something has. The world feels layered now, not like a stage or a painting, but like cloth upon cloth, veil after veil. The sand is not just sand, it is history. The wind is not just wind, it is message. The people are not just labourers and priests and potters, they are vessels. And you are not just surviving anymore, you are being shaped, carved, not by force, but by presence. That night, you do not eat much. Your hunger feels faint, unimportant. You lie beneath the stars, your hands still faintly stained with the woman's pigment, and for the first time in this foreign land, you feel something warm blooming in your chest. Not comfort, not clarity, but initiation into something older than language, something with no beginning and no end. On the 19th day, the Nile sings, not with words, not with melody, but with motion. You hear it before you see it. A low murmur like water slipping over polished stone, a voice too ancient to speak plainly, rising steadily from the river's edge. When you step outside, the village is already awake, already moving, already listening. You walk toward the sound, and there it is. The river has risen, not with violence, not with roar, but with certainty. The banks are no longer dry and cracked. The reeds sway with deeper roots now. The water creeps inland, slow and quiet, like a hand returning to its own reflection. What was land yesterday is water today. The Nile, faithful and untamable, has arrived at its yearly climax. Akhet flood season. The change is not dramatic, not all at once, but the people feel it. You feel it. In the way the air is softer, in the way even the animals move with more caution. The river is not angry. It is awake, hungry perhaps, intent. Children are not allowed near the edge, nets are drawn in, and every step taken near the water now comes with a pause, a glance, a reverent thought. The work shifts. Today is not for planting, nor harvesting, nor building. The land is too wet for bricks, too soft for carts. So the people turn their hands to preparation. You are called to help tie bundles of grain into tight sheaves, wrapped in woven netting, sealed with pitch, and placed into elevated storage pits covered with stone. Grain is more than food here. It is insurance, it is wealth, it is life deferred. You work alongside two women and an old man. The women sort the grain, their hands moving so fast they blur. The old man inspects each bundle before it is stored. He says nothing but hums a breathless melody without tune. You hum it later, quietly to yourself without realizing it. The afternoon brings heat, humid, heavy, the kind of heat that settles into the joints and folds of your clothes. You're offered a bowl of fermented barley water mixed with crushed dates and wild mint. It's thick, earthy, mildly sour, but it soothes. In the shade, others work on boats, small ones, narrow, meant to skim just above the water. You are not invited to help, but you watch. You watch the way the reeds are split, soaked, bent and lashed. You watch how pitch is heated until soft and then spread along the seams. You watch how the builders do not measure with rope or stone, but with memory and gesture and rhythm. One man holds up a plank, squints at the horizon, nods, and then cuts it at an angle you would not have imagined. The boat takes shape like a story unfolding. Not planned, remembered. Later someone sings. A song in a language you still cannot speak. But it loops, verses rising, falling, returning. Children join in. The tune spreads like the river, slowly, gently. until even the animals pause to listen. You find yourself swaying to it. You don't realize you've been smiling. As the sun lowers, the floodwaters lap at the edge of the village. No alarm is raised, no line is drawn. This is part of the cycle. It is not resisted. That evening, the elders walk the perimeter. Each carries a staff dipped in ochre and clay. They press the tip into the earth at the edge of the flood, one by one, marking the new boundary. Not to push the river back, but to acknowledge it, to witness it. You watch this too. You are learning, finally, what reverence looks like in this world. It is not grand, it is not loud, it is participation. You step forward and help carry a basket of offerings to a stone placed near the shore. Dates, flatbread, fish wrapped in lotus leaves. You don't ask what they're for. You don't need to. The river watches, the river remembers. That night, you sleep with the sound of lapping water just beyond your dreams. You wake once, just before dawn, and the river has risen again. The 20th day begins before the sky has changed colour. It's not the voice of a person that wakes you this time, nor the sound of tools or wind, or even the stirring of the river. It's a presence. Heavy. Still. Like a stone laid across your chest, not to crush, but to hold. You open your eyes to darkness and know something has shifted. Not the world. You. The sounds come slowly. Quiet footsteps, hushed voices, the crackling of a low fire. Outside, the village is not yet awake in full, but certain people are moving. You rise, pulled forward, not by instruction, but by instinct. Your body knows what your mind does not. You are expected. You follow the figures ahead, barely visible in the pre-dawn light. They lead you away from the houses, past the waterline, past the boats half sunk in silt. You cross a ridge of damp stone where moss clings to cracks. Then you descend into a cave. The entrance is narrow, hidden by hanging reeds and weather-smoothed rock. The air within is cool, dry, and laced with the scent of earth and old things. The flicker of torchlight leads you deeper. Shadows twist and bend against the walls not bare but carved. Carvings unlike any you've seen so far. Not gods, not pharaohs. These are older, rougher, symbols within symbols, spirals within spirals. Images that shift meaning the longer you stare. A woman with many arms, each one holding a tool. A face split in half, one side smiling, the other sleeping. A tree that blooms on one branch and dies on the other. The priest is already there, not the temple priest from before, a different one. Robes made of darker linen. His face marked with fine lines of blue ink that trace down from the corners of his eyes to his jaw. He does not speak. He does not need to. He gestures for you to kneel, you do. He anoints your forehead with oil, cool, scented with herbs you can't name. He touches your chest with the tip of a carved wand, its surface etched with tiny marks. Then he places something into your hand, a small stone, flat, smooth, black as night. You hold it, unsure what to do. He speaks at last, his voice low, not whispering, but as if the cave itself is listening. The words are ancient, untranslatable. You feel them more than hear them. Words that pass through your ribs, your lungs, your teeth. Then he draws on the ground, a symbol. It resembles a wave, but not water, a wave of time. He places another stone beside it, white, round like a piece of the moon. Then he presses your hand, still holding the black stone, into the dust beside the two. You understand. Light and shadow, life and sleep. The Nile in flood, the Nile in drought, the sun when it rises, the sun when it disappears, the days you survived, the days that changed you. The priest lifts the wand again and taps the stone in your hand. Once. Then he removes it, takes the white one, places it in its place. The ritual is done, but you feel no finality. Only a door inside yourself slowly creaking open. You emerge from the cave at first light. The sun edges over the hills, brushing the reeds with gold. The villagers begin to stir. The usual sounds return, grinding, splashing, laughter, coughs, but they seem far away. You feel far away, but not alone. Not anymore. Later that morning, you are taken to help an elder organize tokens and records. Not scrolls, but clay tablets baked and etched with marks. Each one represents a transaction, a record, a name. You hold one that is over a decade old, its surface worn, but its meaning preserved. A man traded oxen for barley. His name is on the tablet. He is likely dead now, but his name remains. And in this society, that means he is not gone. As the day unfolds, you notice more things than before. The way people pause before entering a home. The way they whisper a name before lifting a basket. The way an old woman sets a flat stone on the roof of her house, not as decoration, but as remembrance. You recall the stone the priest gave you. You remember the gesture, the wave. In the evening, a group gathers near the central hearth. Children sit cross-legged, watching as an elder draws stories in the dirt. He traces the shape of a serpent, then a fish, then a star. Each one becomes something else. Each one begins in silence, but all are remembered. You sit among them, not as guest, not yet as kin, but as witness. And in ancient Egypt that is enough. Because to witness something, to carry it in silence, to speak of it when the time is right, that is a sacred act. And you are learning how to carry the weight of sacred things. The 21st day begins with dust rising in the distance, not the slow, sleepy dust of morning cause, but a column, steady, churning, shaped by many feet. When you first see it from the edge of the fields, you think it might be a herd. But the rhythm is wrong. Too deliberate. Too human. The village feels it too. Before the sound even reaches your ears, the air tightens. Not in panic, but preparation. A quiet urgency moves through the people. Not running, but shifting. Positions are taken, tools set down, voices lower. The elders step into the open spaces between homes. A woman ties back her hair and draws a line of coal beneath each eye. No one hides, no one flees. Because this is not a surprise. It is a visit. From the capital. You've heard the name whispered, Waset. The great city, centre of law, grain, temples and judgment. This group is smaller than an army, but larger than a caravan. 30, perhaps more. They arrive on foot and horseback, with carts behind them bearing goods and scrolls and bronze-tipped spears that catch the sun with every step. At their head rides a man cloaked in linen so fine it moves like smoke. His face is painted, not with beauty, but precision. Symbols marked at the temples around the mouth. His eyes are lined in black, rimmed with red. He does not smile. A scribe rides behind him, scroll in hand, speaking softly as they approach. You are told to stand at the edge of the crowd. You do. The envoy dismounts. He does not greet, he observes. The villagers bow, not deeply, but enough. Not out of devotion, but out of custom. Respect is not always willing, but it is always required. He walks the perimeter of the village, flanked by 2 guards. He inspects the water lines, the grain stores, the walls reinforced just days before. He says little. Occasionally he nods. Occasionally he gestures for the scribe to record something. Then he turns and calls for the children. A hush falls. You don't understand why, until a group of mothers steps forward, each gently guiding a boy or girl no older than 10. The envoy watches them, eyes narrow, then speaks, a short phrase. The scribe repeats it, louder. Your blood chills when you realize the word. Selection. It's not a taking, not force, but choice. From time to time, the capital calls for apprentices, to be scribes, healers, temple acolytes, daughters for noble houses, sons for the workshops. It is not punishment, it is opportunity, but it is also loss, because most do not return. The envoy steps forward. He looks at each child, eyes, hands, posture. He does not touch them. But you can feel the weight of his gaze from where you stand. He pauses before one girl. She doesn't flinch. Her eyes are wide, calm, defiant. He nods. Another, small, quiet, thin, trembles under his gaze. He passes him by. 3 children are chosen. None cry, their parents say nothing, but their faces are carved from something older than grief. They've rehearsed this. The envoy announces names, the scribe marks the tablets, the guards offer water to the selected. Not a gesture of comfort, a gesture of ownership. Then the procession moves again, and just like that, they are gone. No feast, no farewell. Dust rises behind them. When silence returns, it is different. Heavier. The chosen children's families gather but not together. Each sits alone for a time. There is no wailing, only stillness. The girl's mother places a folded piece of cloth on the threshold of her home and burns incense at its edge. The boy's father climbs to the roof and sings one note into the wind. Only once. You ask no questions. You only carry. You help restore the order, unstacking baskets, replacing lids, wiping the footprints from the grain yard. No one speaks of what just happened. But everyone moves with the same quiet rhythm. The village's breath resumes. By evening, the dust has settled completely. The sun sets, not with grandeur, but with resolve. And you understand more than ever, in this land, destiny does not always arrive with ceremony. Sometimes it wears sandals and speaks in measured tones and takes only what it needs, and leaves. The 22nd day begins not with footsteps or firelight, but with the ringing of stone, clear, sharp, repeating. At first it comes like the echo of something distant, barely heard over the murmur of wind and birdsong, but it grows, quickens, and soon the whole village turns its attention to the source. You follow them, barefoot over cool morning earth, toward the hill. At the base of the slope, men are carving, not tombs this time, not wells, but something new, a boundary. The elder who once guided your hand over memory stones now stands beside a freshly etched wall. It is low, waist-height, shaped in a wide, graceful arc. On it, symbols are already appearing, chiseled with care, swept clean after every mark. This is not an ordinary wall. This is a marking, a story told in stone. You are handed a cloth and a jar of sand paste. Your task is simple: polish. Rub in small circles where the chisel has passed, removing dust, smoothing the edges. The surface beneath your fingertips is still warm from the morning sun. The carved lines are deep, meant to last. Each mark is deliberate. Each tells a piece of a season. One shows the shape of the river curling into fields. Another shows a line of fish beneath a boat. Another, a figure kneeling with arms outstretched toward a tree that bears no fruit yet. The wall is not about what happened. It's about what must not be forgotten. You work in silence for hours. Other hands join yours, older, younger, rougher, more skilled. One man hums as he works. A girl beside you traces each symbol with her finger before wiping away the dust as if memorizing the shape by touch. Then the priest arrives, not robed in white but in brown and black, earth tones. His skin is painted with ochre, his eyelids lined in copper. He walks the length of the wall slowly, eyes scanning every glyph. Occasionally he pauses, corrects a curve, adds a dot. Whispers to the stone, this is not decoration, this is invocation. Every line carved here will be read again when the fields bloom, when the floods return, when the children, now too small to hold baskets, begin to carry water jars. It is a seasonal record, but also a spell, a hope etched in permanence. The priest finishes the final glyph himself, the symbol of Ma'at, balance, order, a single feather above a resting hand. Then he steps back. No announcement is made. No horn is blown. But one by one, villagers approach the wall. Some press their palms to it, others kneel. A few bring offerings, bread, fish, even a single fig wrapped in reed. These are placed at the foot of the wall, not for any god in particular, but for the act of memory itself. You hesitate, then step forward. You press your hand to the stone. It is warm. The carvings are smooth beneath your skin. You close your eyes and for a moment feel not the stone, but everything behind it. The days of labor, the shared breath of the harvest, the flood rising and falling, the children taken, the fish caught, the bricks stacked, the grain buried. You do not speak, you only remember, and that is enough. Later, you help sweep the dust from the hillside, not to hide the work, but to honor it. The slope is left bare, the wall glowing in the late sun like a bone unearthed from time. That evening, a small gathering forms at the top of the ridge. No fire is lit. No food is shared, just a circle of people, sitting in the wind, watching the horizon darken. Someone begins to speak. Not loud, a story. Not of gods or kings, but of a boy who fell into the river and returned with a handful of silt that bloomed into reeds wherever he walked. Another adds to it, then another. Soon, the story is not about the boy anymore. It's about the reeds, then the river, then the wind. You listen, you do not interrupt. And as the stars arrive, one by one, slowly, patiently, you begin to see the wall in a different light. Not as stone, but as voice, fixed in place, but never still. On the 23rd day, the river changes colour. Not entirely, not dramatically, but enough. What was once the deep green-brown of silt and algae is now tinged with something darker, richer, like ink spreading through parchment. The villagers notice. They say nothing, but their eyes linger longer on the water as they draw it. The children are kept farther back, the boats remain moored, the nets go unused, the Nile is retreating, the Akhet, the season of inundation, is passing. The flood has peaked, and now the slow descent begins. But it is not a moment of rest. It is a moment of reckoning. Everything must be measured. You are summoned at midday along with others. Not to the fields, not to the granaries, but to the narrow chamber beside the temple, where stone tablets line the walls, each marked with vertical slashes and notches. They resemble calendars, or tallies, or musical notation. It is the Nilometer. You've read of it. In your world, it would be behind glass, studied, photographed, preserved. Here it is used, every day, every year. The priest waits beside it, his robes dyed with the blue of lapis, his eyes shaded with soot and oil. He carries a long staff capped with copper and tipped in obsidian, not ceremonial, functional, precise. You are shown how to read the wall. Each mark represents a level of the flood. Too low and famine follows, too high and homes are swept away. Just right and balance is restored. Ma'at, the concept again, ever present. Balance in water, balance in grain, balance in breath. You help measure. The priest calls out a number. A scribe, seated nearby with shaved head and stained hands, etches it into a fresh clay tablet. He does not speak, he does not pause. Then the priest steps aside and gestures for you. He wants you to mark the wall. You hesitate. Surely this is not your place. But he nods again, slow and deliberate. So you take the obsidian-tipped staff. Approach the stone and mark the level. One clean notch, permanent. Your breath catches as you step back. For a moment the chamber feels heavier, not in threat, but in inheritance. You've placed your hand into the system, not just the work, the memory of it. Outside, the sun begins to lower. Shadows grow long. The water glints red and orange, reflecting not just the sky, but the season, one that is ending. You are tasked next with the grain count. You follow a procession of scribes and workers to the storage pits. The lids are lifted, and inside, sacks of barley, of emmer, of flaxseed, stacked with care, marked with symbols. Each one must be weighed, recorded, noted. You carry, you lift, you count, but you also listen. Each worker murmurs something as they place the sacks, sometimes to themselves, sometimes to the sack itself. A short phrase, a name, a number, a blessing, a warning. You begin to do the same. You don't know the words. So you use your own, just breath, just sound, just intention. You whisper into the weight of the sack, and somehow it feels right. By the time the sun has fallen and the torches have been lit, the final tablet is stamped. The storage is sealed again, not locked, not hidden, but respected. The priest gathers the scribes and recites something beneath the stars. It sounds like poetry, or a spell. He touches each of their shoulders with the staff, including yours. Then he extinguishes the torch. Darkness falls, soft and warm. Later that night you sit alone beside the river, now quiet, slow, glimmering faintly under a sliver of moon. You place your hand in the water. It's cooler than it was, gentler, but full of promise. And in that moment you understand, this land doesn't move forward like a road. It circles, it prepares, it waits for itself. And you now are part of its orbit. Not visitor, not stranger, but a name. Unspoken, yet known. On the 24th day, the silence is different. It's not the hush of night or reverence or heat. It's the silence of completion, of something unseen reaching its natural end. You feel it in your bones the moment your eyes open. The air carries it. The light is still soft, the dust not yet stirred, and yet the world around you is leaning inward, as if listening for a final note. No one calls you, no one gestures. You rise anyway. You walk through the village, not as an outsider, not as an intruder, but as someone known. Faces meet yours and nod, not in greeting, but in recognition. The kind that says, you were here. Children play by the water. Old men sharpen tools, even though no work is urgent. Women hang linen not to dry, but to bless it with wind. You see the lines around their eyes, their quiet laughter, their glances skyward. A feeling moves among them like a gentle tide. Today is the day of returning, not departure, not farewell, returning. You are led without words to the eastern ridge beyond the date trees, where the sun touches the land first. There the priest waits, the one with copper-lined robes, with the eyes like quiet wells. He stands beside a low open platform made of stone and woven mats. At its centre, a mound of silt, smooth and dark, shaped like a gentle hill. You've seen this before, at birth, at burial, at planting. The priest begins to speak, not to you, not to the crowd, but to the mound. His voice is low, carried not by volume but by rhythm. Others begin to circle the space. You follow, slowly. Sunlight paints your back, the dust of morning rising around your ankles like mist. This is a ceremony of acknowledgement. Not celebration, not grief. Acknowledgement of the cycle, of the flood, of the harvest, of the names spoken and those forgotten, of your steps through this world. You kneel beside the others and add your handprint to the mound, soft, wet earth yielding beneath your palm. The priest covers it gently with a layer of sand, sealing it like a signature, and then he turns to you. He raises a bowl. You do not know what's inside until you taste it. Bitter, then warm. It is made of ground herbs, honey, ash and oil. You drink without question. The flavor clings to the back of your throat. Then you are handed a linen sash, unadorned, plain. It is wrapped once around your waist, then tied loosely with a knot at your side. You have been marked, not as priest, nor noble, nor servant, but as witness. Someone who has walked through the wheel and seen every spoke. Someone who has carried water and bricks and memory. Someone who will now carry it forward. The crowd disperses slowly, not with noise, with breath, with nods, with quiet conversation in small clusters, hands on shoulders, eyes cast upward. The priest returns to the temple without looking back. The children run again, their bare feet slapping the warm stone. The wind picks up, and the river glints in reply. You return to your spot by the wall, the one where you first slept, blistered and alone. It's still there. The mud has hardened. The shape of your body is faintly remembered in the dust. You sit once more. But this time you are not aching. You are not hungry. You are still. And then, as if drawn by that stillness, the boy from before, the one who once led you to the old woman in the hills, sits beside you. He does not speak. He hands you a reed flute, crude, hollow, simple. You raise it to your lips and breathe. The note is not perfect, but it carries. Out over the roofs, through the palms, across the slow breath of the Nile. It is not a song of joy. It is not a song of sorrow. It is the song of being here, of having lasted. And in ancient Egypt, that is everything. Because this world does not care what you were, only that you remained long enough to understand.